Welcome to Summary Judgment. I'm attorney Rachel Baird, and I'm joined by Ed Peruta, my co-host. We're here every Saturday from noon to 2 Eastern Time, transmitting live from the American News Media Center in Harwinton, Connecticut. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Rachel.
You've been following a story.
Got a lot to talk about today.
I'm going to let you go.
A lot of it, in fact, some of it's going to be controversial. But I'm just going to run through some topics that what I do is if I see something that I believe needs to be discussed further than the mainstream media has, I take and I put that up on my Facebook page at Edward Peruta. And then prior to the show, I take the headlines and I put them in a list to give me talking points, to give us talking points. Now, the first thing I'm going to be talking about is a family news conference that took place this week in front of the Wethersfield Police Department with a very prominent national attorney who was involved in the, what's his name in Levon, whatever.
I don't know. I didn't cover it, Ed.
The guy in Ferguson.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And he came and he's representing the family members of the Anthony Vega Cruz Chulo situation at the Wethersfield Police Department. And I would go as far as to say I believe that we've probably done more research into what led up to the incident and the incident going down than the news conferences and rallies and protests have exposed to the public. So the public kind of sits there and only knows what they're hearing from the Chulo side.
I don't believe you've missed an event. There was one event where you sent a videographer
Nicholas,
that you couldn't make.
Nicholas went to...
But you've covered every event.
Right, and there's an event, I guess a picnic of some kind, barbecue going on in Hartford. But we're going to talk about that, and I have some editorial comments about when the attorney makes certain statements to the public in the news media. What I did was, you're going to see him say it, then there's going to be a black background and some graphics that are going to let people see what my comments are. And I go further in discussing it than the simple comments. Then it goes back right into the news conference. And then there's after each clip, I have one of these sections. So we're going to talk about that.
Are we going to play this clip you're talking about?
It's 6 minutes and 36 seconds long, and there's the whole news conference I put together for you, where it's 36 minutes of video, kind of unedited, possibly with some comments.
I think it's important to have an unedited version so people, if they want to watch the whole thing, can assure themselves that we're not cherry picking things out to make a point.
Well, I don't really like. I think the public needs to see raw, unedited video. If the body's laying in the road or hanging out of a car, that's what it is. That's the real life situation. Now, I know that we've discussed putting up the Wethersfield evading police crash with a cruiser shooting of an operator, and we have a video from Father's Day 2016 where there's dead people in a car, or dead and injured people, both of them a double fatal in Rocky Hill. And, that's what happens when you run away from police.
But we'll get more into that. Why don't you list the topics now?
I'm going to explain to people something that a lot of people don't know about. It's called the Vigilant License Plate Recognition System. It's called Vigilant Solutions. It's the Vigilant License Plate Recognition System, and how the vehicle plate in Wethersfield was caught 43 times on these plate monitor cameras that are either on a cruiser or on a telephone pole or a utility pole.
This is amazing.
I'm going to talk about a Connecticut Post newspaper reporter who was detained during one of these protests for 30 minutes.
Now, did you get that information from one of our viewers? I got an email from one of our viewers.
I did.
I did.
Thank
you.
And the state of Connecticut has just passed a juvenile car theft bill.
What is that about?
We'll get to it. But if let's assume that a juvenile steals a car and he gets arrested for juvenile court. They're going to not have him go to court for 6 months. And during that 6-month period, they're going to put him into like counseling, and they're going to do whatever and see how he does. It's almost like being on probation for 6 months before he goes to court. They're going to liberalize the penalties for stealing a car.
Boy, if anybody has ever had their car stolen and knows the horrible feeling when you walk out in the morning to go get in your car and it's not there.
I had a car stolen in Florida, and you had a car stolen in New Haven.
I did.
Okay. Now,
and I was in school and college, and I didn't have full coverage on it. You know, because I own the car outright, so I didn't have full coverage. I just had the mandatory.
You had a very
coverage.
limited budget, and you had to not put the collision and theft.
Right.
You had the liability. You had the minimum required.
I did.
But you didn't have the extra bells and whistles.
So when the car got stolen, I couldn't replace it.
You're out of luck.
I went 2 years without a car.
Right. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about the firearm minority activists, anti-police activists who shut down a Hamden Police Commission meeting demanding the immediate firing of an officer involved in a shooting. And there's a minority female. I see her at these different events. She actually grabbed the microphone off the desk of the Hamden meeting. Why she was not arrested for disorderly conduct or breach of peace, okay, I don't know.
Is she the one that spoke at the Weathersfield town meeting?
I believe
she was from New
I don't
Haven?
know. There's two.
Okay.
There's two women that wear glasses. One they wear hoodies, and you know I don't know, but okay. We're going to talk about, and we got a comment about this new vibrator that was shown at the female vibrator that was shown at the.
Why would we talk about that?
Well, because what happened.
That's not news.
What happened was it won an award. Okay, for being an innovative.
Okay, let's move on. Maybe we
wait
won't
a minute.
get to
Wait
that.
a minute.
Yeah, well, good timing, JC.
JC.
Hey, buddy.
What's going on? Are we going out on News Now San Diego?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
He doesn't watch his own channel.
He's calling in to talk. He's not doing
Well,
a quality.
I'm going through a list of topics. You want to stay on the phone while I go through them?
Yeah, what are the topics?
Okay. A newspaper reporter in Connecticut was, I guess you could say, detained for half an hour when she was covering a protest. The Bridgeport, Connecticut Police Department picked her up. And now the mainstream media in Connecticut is getting rather upset. And JC's going to talk about the President Trump canceled some media credentials. JC's been there in San Diego. And now the media's pissed off about that. But where were they when it was happening to us? Okay. But hold on, JC. There's a new female vibrator that won an award at the electronics show in Las Vegas. And then because it was a female vibrator, they took away the award. And then the people who manufactured this vibrator brought to the attention of the world that when they had a fake female bottom half vagina type device, those people, the male-orientated devices, all got awards and were allowed to present their new technology at the show. But when something came in for a woman, they said it can't do it anymore. Now the show has apologized to the woman and given her back her award. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of outcry. Why? How come you can do it for men and not for women? All right. A dirt bike crashed into a van on Albany Avenue in Hartford. Dirt bikes do not meet the requirements to be registered on the road, so I would guarantee it was an unregistered, uninsured motor vehicle. Then there's a video recording of a man who attempted, I'm sorry, no, I didn't get there yet. A man attempted to carjack a woman, and when he ran away, he dropped his cell phone on the driveway, and they caught him because of the cell phone. But there was a carjacking, okay? And, oh boy, I don't have the other one.
Let me see if I do.
No. I may not have put it up there. Hold on.
Yeah.
There is a video out there. A man, in early 20s, a man had video in his home. And two people came into the home and broke in. And they're captured on video, kicking down the door, coming into the house with firearms, and he was asleep in his bedroom. They started coming down the hallway. He came out with his gun, and there was a shootout. And the perpetrators, the two people that broke in, did in fact shoot him in the hand, but they took off. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is Connecticut is now about to attempt or will pass legislation that says firearms owners must, when there's a juvenile in the house, must keep their firearms locked at all times. And that's in direct conflict with Heller.
It is.
Who said it must be ready to use at any time. That was brought to my attention by Carl Higbee. And here's Carl calling me this week and telling me about it. And then there's this article with the surveillance video from inside the home that says, what if he had to either unlock his firearm or assemble his firearm in order to defend himself while he was in the bedroom of his own home? Get the fuck out of here. All right. So I do have these topics. But, JC, what have you been doing, buddy?
Just plugging out here in San Diego. Nothing crazy. You know, the state bullshit. Fire department's got a new game they're playing. They're trying to act like cops here in San Diego. That needs to be addressed. Whenever they pull up to any scenes, now we have a fireman who has all the time in the world to go rope it off like it's a crime scene. Kick everybody out of it.
Okay, so let me see if I can explain it because you're breaking up on your cell phone. Fire goes to an incident. And it used to be, it's at the intersection of 1st and 2nd Street. What they're doing is they're taking a fireman with a roll of not police line tape, but caution tape, yellow caution tape, and they're sending him 3 or 4 blocks down the road, and they're blocking off the roads so people like me, JC, or somebody else can't get down there and videotape what's going on.
Well, we have a name for that tape here. The Peruta perimeter tape.
Oh, yeah, the Peruta perimeter tape.
Right.
Or the JC tape. But
Peruta perimeter has
I
better sound.
maintain that if I'm on this side of the tape and I see civilians standing on that side of the tape, I'm going to just walk down and stand next to those civilians. Because, and let's take the incident in Bridgeport where the reporter it's the Hearst owns the Connecticut Post.
Mirror.
The Connecticut Post.
Okay.
But Hearst owns that paper.
Mm-hmm.
So she was, I guess, in the activity, probably showing media credentials, I don't know.
She says they knew her.
Recording the incident, and they arrested her, took her away. Now, think about it. The media has no greater right of access than the general public, but the media has equal rights as the general public.
But they were clearing the general public out of that
They
scene.
were.
But on the other hand, let me run this scenario by you. If the media's there and the general public's there and the general public is being disorderly and that's why they're being cleared and you're the media and you're not being disorderly, why should you be cleared?
Well, there is definitely a conflict of court opinions on whether or not that reporter had the right to stand there. Mm-hmm. Okay? And now the question I have is this. Are the mainstream media outlets in San Diego going to address the issue that JC brings up? Are the mainstream media outlets in Connecticut going to address a reporter, photographer being taken into custody and detained for half an hour and they don't call it an arrest? Oh, yeah, half an hour is reasonable. I've been putting...
The answer in San Diego is local.
Bad connection.
JC, you got a bad connection, buddy.
The
Oh, that's good.
Well, what I'm saying
That
to you
was
is
good.
this. I don't think, and I'm going out to News Now San Diego, I don't think the mainstream media in San Diego has the balls or the strength in their knees to address the issue and call out public safety, whether it's police, fire, or ambulance, to say, get the fuck out of our way. We have a job to do just like you do.
Yeah, now watch this, okay? As I noticed throughout Florida, they kind of did the same thing. They blocked you way the hell out, and the media gets all their videos from the police department, from the fire department. Now, when they do that, okay, they block the cameraman out, the local media out. Now, all of a sudden, they become North Korea and Iran. Because now we have state-run media.
Well, JC, your phone connection is so bad that even though you are the pinnacle of our success in San Diego with News Now San Diego, I'm going to hang up on you.
Okay, well, I love you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye, JC.
Oh, JC.
No. Can't have it both
All right.
ways.
So let's talk.
Well, let's talk more about that issue of what is the mainstream media going to do here in Connecticut? What is
Nothing.
Hearst going to do? They could,
They won't.
on behalf of their reporter, file a federal complaint for false arrest.
Right. Now, this is very similar to the news conference issue. Okay? During the news conference that took place, and I don't really editorial it in the video, I don't get to that point yet. A stand-up reporter for Channel 8 News asked a question based on this statement. The brother of the person who was shot claimed that the officer, when he was running beside the car, was looking right in the window at the people in the car. And the news reporter said to the family member, but the window was tinted.
Was the front window tinted?
No, not just, wait. The front window was tinted. I mean, the window was tinted. And the family member, the older brother, came out and said, but the windshield was not.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too.
But the front windshield was not. Well, he called out and talked down the reporter who was trying to elicit some more facts about the incident. The family and their lawyers are making statements that if you listen to the statement, you can switch it around a little bit and make it very much in favor of the officer. But nobody's doing that. Now, can Master Control set up the 6-minute video? Ready to go. Now, what's going to happen is there's an opening, and then there's some chatter, and then whenever it comes to a graphic of that I typed, he's going to pause it. We're going to talk about it.
So I just want to let you know as well that after this video, we'll give Master Control some time, and hopefully we can do it. I just sent a link to another video we have up on YouTube of the incident. I think it's important for people when they hear somebody talk about the incident to actually look at the incident themselves. So we're going to follow this news conference with the actual incident so you can see for yourselves.
The 3 clips, and to be very specific, it starts out with dash cam from what's known as Wethersfield Unit 5, and then it is followed by dash cam video from Wethersfield Unit 2, and then that is followed by a private business surveillance camera that caught part of the incident on the Saddlestein Highway. So it's not that long, but you're going to see clip 1, clip 2, and clip 3 all put into one clip, no editing.
Because to me, has anybody else taken this position What occurred when the officer went in front of the car and shot the driver is justified by everything that happened before. And if you have to see what happened before and not just that clip of the officer in front of the car to understand that.
My son Michael has he enjoys having discussions with me about things that I get involved in and critiques my involvement and sometimes criticizes the way I present things. Mm-hmm. Well, I presented to Michael last night and he goes, "Oh, well, now you're talking." And I said, "What? I don't have to put all of that to get to my opinion, but you know, here's how it happens." And a whole bunch of, let me see if I can put it together. All of the stars were in alignment that day. All of the planets were in a straight row. Here's how it goes down. Prior to the vehicle being noticed at all, Unit 2 was going to go off on his 1/2 hour meal break. And he crossed out of his patrol district into District 5's patrol district to go to the Weathersfield Pizza to get something to eat. So he's parked in District 5's district. So now there's 2 cars in the district, not 1. District 5 is driving down the road. He pulls up next to, on the left side of a vehicle, and I guess looks to the right, and totally blacked out driver's window. So the police officer has no way of knowing the age of the driver, the sex of the driver, the race of the driver, has no idea.
Just to be fair, because I know people watching this are probably thinking the same thing, it's unlikely that the officer, based on his experience, believed that it was a older white woman sitting in that car. Do you agree?
Right, because usually older white women don't ride around with all of the windows blacked out, tinted where you cannot see inside except through the windshield.
So there may have been some presumptions about who would drive
now,
an illegal car with illegally tinted windows.
It's my understanding, because everybody's kind of talking, and I've been able to filter through some of the information, where the officer cannot see in the car, the operator inside the car can look out through the tinted window and see out. You just can't see in.
Yeah, it's like when you go up to Troop L.
So you have to say possibly the driver of the car saw the police officer looking at his phone.
You want to see if JC has a better connection?
Yeah. JC, you there? JC.
Am I any better?
Yes.
A little.
Yes. But I'm in.
Got it.
But I'm in the middle of telling a story, so if you want to hold on, you can hold on.
I'll talk to you in a little while.
Okay, bye. So we don't know what that operator did or didn't do, what he did or didn't see. But from the information that I've been able to put together, he quickly got off the highway and went into a parking lot, parked his car, but didn't get out. Waited till the cruiser goes by. A short time later, the car's back on the highway. The cruiser sees the car, and he sees the car again go into a parking lot, park in a parking space, waiting for the cruiser to go by. Now, a police officer is hired, he is trained, and he is made aware of certain motor vehicle laws. One of which is you can't have totally blacked out windows in the passenger compartment of the car. Mm-hmm. That's a violation of the law. Mm-hmm. You put that violation together with what he perceives is the vehicle trying to avoid law enforcement for whatever reason. Is the person 5 years old? Is the person, does the person have a kidnapped victim in the car? Was it a carjacking like occurred? You know, did he carjack this car? Why is he trying to avoid me? So what you do is you call in the marker plate. And I, having been a policeman in Weathersfield, I know they go like this. Unit 5, I have a 1060 vehicle. That's a suspicious vehicle. And he says, Connecticut passenger plate 484 YOS. And the dispatcher plunges it into a computer and comes back to the officer and says, yeah, that's an expired or suspended plate, meaning it's not valid. And that plate is supposed to be on a 2013 Hyundai. And the plate is currently on an Infiniti. So right away, he knows that he has tinted windows, violation, and the plate doesn't match the car, violation. And he attempts to pull the car over. And the car pulls over. The officer gets out, walks up to the car. And then the car, when he's almost at the car takes off. Well, the operator goes, I'm going to wait until he gets up so I'll have the time that it takes him to run back to the car to get away. Now, it's a Saturday afternoon, late Saturday afternoon.
Bad road conditions.
The road conditions are wet and slippery.
Yep.
And he hauls ass and goes up the road.
There's sidewalks where pedestrians could be. There's businesses.
The question is, did the operation of that vehicle, in the manner it was driven away from the police officer in District 5, constitute reckless driving?
Absolutely.
Because he's endangering other people coming southbound. He's going northbound, southbound, people coming out of the driveway, whatever. So now we have we have 2 known violations. We have the third violation of engaging police in pursuit. Then we have the reckless driving. And I'm sure he calls it, as soon as he gets back around his portable, he goes, all right, the car's taking off northbound on South State Highway. Well,
I mean, in your mind, you're thinking, why is somebody doing this? Are they out of their minds? Are they hiding something? What are they?
Do they have drugs in the trunk of the car? A dead body in the trunk of the car? A kidnapped child in the car? Whatever. We don't know. But this guy is going to the extreme of trying to get away from this policeman. Well, what happens is the officer from District 2 is sitting in a parking lot just north of where the traffic stop took place. He hears this radio communication. He hears that the car is taking off northbound. He starts up his car. He pulls out onto the highway. He lets one car go by, and then he goes to put his car diagonally across the northbound lanes with lights and siren going. You can hear the lights and siren. The lights and siren going as if to say, buddy, I'm here. You got to stop. The vehicle traveling northbound at a high rate of speed turns the wheel to the left to go around the officer that's coming down to block the road, loses control of his car, does a 180 spin and spins backward into the apron of a parking lot in front of a local business. District 2, who sees the car go by him, does a U-turn to the left and starts to follow the car, and as he's following the car, the nose of District 2 smashes into the nose of the vehicle that's running. Mm-hmm. You'd think that the person would say, okay, look.
right in front of another vehicle.
Yeah, you would think that the operator would say, this 18-year-old kid would say, all right, look, gig's up. He crashed into my car. I better sit right here. Nope. What he does is he puts his car in reverse and does a reverse to the right U-turn. And as he's going forward northbound again, the District 5 car on their video comes up on the driver's side of the suspect vehicle, makes contact and crashes into the driver door. You can see the damage on the car. And at the same time, the District 2 officer who had his dinner interrupted is running around the police car and the suspect car and gets to a position directly in front of the car while it is stationary. And on the video, because I've slowed it down frame by frame, not in these videos, you can see the officer has his index trigger finger down along the slide of the vehicle. It wasn't on the trigger. And he's yelling, "Show me your hands, show me your hands, show me your hands." At that point, when the vehicle is pointed directly, and the officer is left foot forward, like this, okay? And while he is left foot forward, double hand holding onto his firearm, pointing it at the operator, he's saying, "Show me your hands." The minute the car begins to lurch forward because somebody stepped on the gas, the officer's finger goes into the trigger guard.
And we can assume when the car lurched forward because somebody was pressing the gas, he wasn't showing his hands.
Well, maybe he was doing it with no, because the vehicle eventually starts to turn to the right as the officer jumps to his right. So the officer is jumping out of the way, the vehicle is trying to avoid, and the officer discharges his firearm 2 times. The car lurches forward, it stops. You can tell it stops because, and you can all, policemen, if you want to see if somebody's rolled the stop sign, the one thing you do is you watch the tires. And if the tire comes to a complete stop and goes forward, he came to a complete stop at the stop sign. If the tire never stops motion, he didn't stop at the stop sign, he rolled through it. But in the news conference and in the protests recently, people claim that the wheels on the car were pointed to the right. Well, I got to tell you, nowhere in any of the video clips, when the officer is standing in front of that car, can you see a tire. So I don't know how they came up with the tires are pointing to the right. But hands up or hands not up, somehow the steering wheel turned to the right. And yes, the operator tried to go to the right of the officer and keep going. Officer discharges 2 rounds. The vehicle goes forward and stops. It comes to a complete stop. The tires actually stop. The officer doesn't fire. The officer's kind of backing away. And the girl passenger, Stephanie Santiago, is trying to get out of the passenger door. You can see her feet on the ground. And all of a sudden, the car lurches forward again. So what do we have? We have the initial stop in front of Goodyear Tire. You can see the sign on the side of the road. And it's for a split second. You got to really get down to frame by frame to see it. When a car is stationary in a motor vehicle stop, a lot of people put their car in park. Either a floor shift lever in the console or on the column. They put it in park. As the officer is approaching the car, and when he gets near the back end of the car, watch the back of the car. And you can see the backup lights come on, which means he went from park through reverse, which turned on the backup lights, to drive, which shut off the backup lights, and he takes off. So you know that he was in park, and he came back through reverse to put it in drive to speed away. That's the first time he took off on the cop.
Okay.
Then there was the collision nose to nose with District 2. And he backed up the U-turn. That's the second time that he tried to get away from the cop. Then when the officer is standing in front of the car with his firearm pointed at the driver, he takes off again. That's the third time he tried to get away from the officer. And what I can't understand is this. If the officer hit him in the head and he went forward and stopped, usually if someone is seriously wounded and unconscious from that wound, a head wound, the car would just kind of roll forward. But after the firing of the shots and the car is brought to a stop again in the middle of the road, the car lurches forward. Well, maybe he slumped and died and rolled onto the floor and his elbow hit the gas pedal.
I don't know whether that matters or not, though.
Now,
that part of it. How much does
All
that
I'm
matter?
saying is the car accelerated and lurched after stopping 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
The 4th one doesn't matter.
Right.
The
I
3rd
agree.
one is when the shots were fired. The 2nd one was after the collision. And the 1st one was getting away from District 5.
So this is my viewpoint of this incident you've just described, and a lot of it's based on what video you shot back in Father's Day in 2016. And just to remind our viewers, around the corner from your house, early morning, Father's Day,
5 o'clock in the morning.
2016, you responded to
A double fatal, or a serious motor vehicle.
Why don't you tell it? Go ahead.
Okay. It was Father's Day 2016. I believe that's in June. And I heard sirens, and I was listening to my police scanner in my residence, and there was a motor vehicle attempt at a motor vehicle stop and an accident, vehicle into a tree, right around the corner from my house, less than a mile. I mean, I go out my condo driveway, take a right, go to the traffic light, take a right, go up the road to the next traffic light, and there's all the police. Everybody's there. Fire's there, police there, everybody's there. I mean, I had to get dressed. I didn't want to go in my underwear. So I put up my tripod and I started the videotape. And one person, I believe, was taken out of the vehicle and he was still alive, put onto a gurney, put into the back of an ambulance, and driven to a helicopter.
That's the passenger.
That's the passenger. And I have video of the operator in his nice white striped shirt, leaning out of the car. He's entrapped. His body's entrapped in the car, and he's deader than shit. Now,
How did that happen?
well, a Rocky Hill police officer tried to pull the vehicle over.
Yep.
The vehicle pulled over. This is in 2016. The officer got out of his cruiser and tried to walk up to the car, and the car took off.
Sounds familiar.
Now, this was captured on a private residence video that looks out at the road, the front yard of his house down the road. You saw the officer get out, try to, and so he goes back to his cruiser. Now, the ironic part is this. In the 2016 incident, the officer was so shaken by the situation that when he pulled his car down into drive, he put it into low gear. And he couldn't understand why his car wouldn't go more than 40 miles an hour trying to chase the car. So he wasn't even chasing it. That car was long gone.
106 miles per hour, I think they said, right?
The fatal accident, they've got a thing in the steering column that records everything. It's one of these memory computers. That the vehicle on impact was doing 106 miles an hour.
Residential neighborhood.
Residential neighborhood through a very serious 4-way intersection, big flashing light, big stop signs, went right through it, but he hit the hump in the road and went airborne.
Any cars that happened to be in his path,
They would have been dead.
They would have been dead.
Now, the officer in 2016 said he was approaching the intersection because the accident happened beyond the intersection of Elm and Gilbert. He said all he saw was a cloud of dust. He knew the car went off the road because there was a cloud of dust. And he pulls up. You can't even tell what type of car it is. It's so mangled into that tree. The tree won, the car lost, and 2 people eventually died. During their investigation, they found 500 bags of Hellboy heroin hidden in the trunk, the tire well in the trunk of the car. And in looking at Facebook entries that evening, the prior evening and that morning, I guess they were out partying. And they took pictures and posted them up on Facebook and did whatever. Now, the tragic part of that was the passenger in the car was the father of a newborn child, and it's Father's Day. And I would sit there and say, what the hell are you doing out at 5 o'clock in the morning partying all night long when you've got a small baby at home with the woman you had the child with? But we live in different cultures. We live in different times. They want to party, they party. What can you say? But that double fatal and threat to human life of anybody on the roads of Rocky Hill, Connecticut, which is the town I live in, is a result of running from a police officer. Now you have the situation in Wethersfield where somebody runs from a police officer. And when you decide to evade and run and engage someone in a pursuit like that, I don't think that in their young minds they evaluate or understand the possible consequences of their actions.
I don't agree. They're not that young. They've been around police before. They've been around. No, I don't.
There's
agree
a
with
video
that.
game out there, and my son knows the name of it. Grand Theft Auto. That you play on the computer, and let's say you crash your car. Well, you can go back at the beginning and you can start all over again, and you go back again and start all over again. Well, in real life, there's no second chances when this happens. You can't. It's not a video game. Now, and I didn't put this in here, but I should have. This individual on April 20th, 2019, they tout the fact that he's 18 years old, and the attorney, the nationally recognized attorney, is saying, 18-year-olds make mistakes. They make errors.
They do.
They do. Except prior to this accident, I had just got done posting a photograph of me at 17 in a U.S. Marine Corps uniform, and at 18, I was in combat in Vietnam. So there's other things that people can do at 18 other than race around, running away from police officers in unregistered, uninsured cars, possibly without a driver's license.
But the fact of the matter is people make mistakes all the time.
All the time.
And a lot of times you get away with it and nothing bad happens to you. But there's a chance that you're going to be in that percentage where something does happen to you.
Right.
And that's just life.
It is.
People drink and drive hundreds of times.
And think nothing of it.
And then an accident happens or an arrest happens, and it happens. So that's the consequence. What I brought up the 2016 incident for is this. Nobody is mentioning what would have happened if that car driven by Chulo had gotten away from this officer. Where was Chulo going to go, and how fast was he going to go to get there? Was he going to go 106 miles an hour on the Silas Deane Highway on a rainy Saturday afternoon? Was he going to crash his car like the kids in 2016 crashed theirs? Was not only he going to end up dead, but the female passenger in his car, was she going to end up dead? And was any car in his path, the passengers who were in that car, going to end up dead? In other words, I can't imagine why anybody is singing the praises of Chulo, a man, because I'm sorry, when you're freaking 18, you're a man.
You are.
A man who has a woman in his car that he put in danger of losing her life. How do you sing the praise of anybody that puts in danger not only the whole community that clearly he doesn't care about, but a woman seated next to him who got into a car with him and put her trust in him to not kill her? I'm sure this woman, Stephanie, who was in the car with Chulo, wasn't part of this. I have a feeling she wasn't saying, run from the police, run 3 times, do all this.
She is quotes around her statement to WFSB Channel 3 that she told Chulo to stop.
Of course she did. Of course she did. Any woman who's been out there with a guy driving like a nut in the car knows exactly what Stephanie was... No.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Knows exactly what Stephanie was thinking and what she was doing in that car. And I believe that officer very likely saved an innocent victim's life, saved Stephanie's life, and saved, who knows, out on the highway's life. And why isn't anybody talking about that? The person who was responsible for endangering a woman in his car and endangering everybody on the highway is dead, and no one else is dead, and that's the officer who should be commended for that. I bet the mother of the passenger that was killed in 2016, I bet she wishes somebody would have stopped that driver before her son got killed. I bet she wishes that. But it's funny because if that would have happened, then she'd be screaming that the officer should have never shot the driver. But her son's dead, and her son wouldn't be dead if the officer had taken action, like the Wethersfield officer took action, to stop this dangerous motor vehicle from endangering the passenger and endangering everybody else around it. I don't know why anybody is not commenting on the fact that this action of the officer very well saved the female passenger's life. Has anybody brought that up?
No.
No. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. When you're talking, I need to make
Wait,
notes.
Master Control said something? Should we play the video?
No, let me finish this first.
Yeah.
When you are talking, I take notes, or I say, I want to interrupt you to say stop, because I will forget what I was going to say. But here's what I know. And this, I have heard nobody say this. In the video, you will see other vehicles operating on the Silestein Highway other than the two police cars in the vehicle being chased. When the car crosses the center line and does the 180 backwards into a driveway, I want to say there's a silver SUV traveling southbound down the Silestein Highway. Okay, so that car stops, and this unfolds, and a police officer shoots somebody while the silver SUV's right there. They close down the highway. Nobody moves. As part of the investigation, they're going to know every single person that was on the highway that was near or went through or was almost hit by or threatened by that car. They're going to go to the operator of the silver SUV and say, were you scared? What were you thinking when you saw all of this police activity unfold in front of you?
Children in car seats.
Right. Now,
I mean, think about it.
The ironic part is this shooting took place, I would say, less than 1,000 feet south of the intersection of Connecticut Route 3 Maple Street and Route 99, the Silestein Highway in Wethersfield, Connecticut. And anybody that wants can go to Google Maps and do Maple Street and Silestein Highway, Wethersfield, and they can look at an aerial view of it. They can, Google Walking and Street View and look at what's going on. Now, I didn't know it at the time. That intersection has one of these, what's it called? What did I say it was called? The traffic, the marker plate reader fixed on a pole. So they're going to be able to see every marker plate that came through that intersection at the time that this was unfolding. So they're going to be able to identify the cars that came southbound that either went past the chase or had to stop because of the chase and the shooting. How have those people explained what they witnessed? How have those people expressed what they were feeling about what was going on in front of them with this car coming at them, doing God knows how many miles an hour? Follow me? Okay. Now I think we're ready to play the tape of the news conference.
Okay. Now he doesn't want to play it.
Attorney Mike Jefferson. We have the honor of representing the family of Chulu Bacon. in this terrible, terrible tragedy that should have never happened. As we stand before the police department today, I am honored to be joined by the NAACP and its state's president, Scott X. Extell. Also, our partner, Attorney Scott Carruthers, is present with us today, and who is a youth community program specialist who was working in a program with Chulu to get career development. He was learning a trade to try to better his life.
Whatever people were attempting to counsel Chulo in ways that would improve his life, somebody should have counseled him on get a license before you drive a car on the road, insure your car and register your car before you drive on the road, don't take a suspended registration plate from some car from somewhere you obtained it and put it on your car and drive around and not expect to be noticed by, stopped by, pursued by law enforcement. Nobody, family, friends, community members, counselors, somebody had to know that Chulo was doing what he was doing in that car for at least a period of his car. He's got the title. The first time it got picked up on the radar system or the photograph system, September 17th, 2018. The last time that I know of was April 19th, 2019, the day before the shooting. Okay? So what I'm saying is, yeah, he had a counselor. The counselor was trying to get Chulo to better his life. Well, guess what? Somebody failed in the counseling. Continue to take.
Well,
go ahead.
another thing that the counselor, and I'm going to go back to this subject because I think it's key and everybody's ignoring it. The other thing that the counselor forgot or Chulo misunderstood was the concept that when you're a man and a woman gets in your car, you are responsible for her
Absolutely.
life, and you should act accordingly.
Absolutely. So now we're going to come out of the text and go into the next portion of the news conference.
And so many people have spoken out about Chulo and how he was trying to improve his life. But the people who knew him best, his family, that's the reason we're here today. That's the reason we're fighting for justice. We have present here his father, Mr. Jose Vega. We also have his sister and brother, Cassandra Vega, and his brother, Anthony Vega. And also we have his girlfriend who was actually in the vehicle with him, Miss Stephanie Santiago. And
In the car with him is his girlfriend.
Yes. Stephanie Santiago is his girlfriend.
Wow, that's a lot of respect for your girlfriend, Chulo. Good
Okay.
job.
So my editorial comment was, not enough people are speaking out on how Chulo flaunted the law and operated his vehicle illegally on Weathersfield community streets. All of these people are here criticizing police, but nobody is saying, and you'll see it in here when they say, we took the title to the car wasn't stolen. We took the car up, we took the title up and gave it to the state's attorney. Did you give him a registration? Did you give him an insurance card? Did you give him a driver's license? Oh yeah, you gave him the title, but that don't mean shit. Okay, continue.
Well, wait. Let
Okay.
me. Well, now I forgot what I was going to say when you said continue.
No. Okay, so what I'm saying is, this news conference is information coming out to us on the other side of those cameras. My camera. I'm now on the other side of a camera watching a news conference, and I'm sitting there saying, all of these people are talking.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. They are acting like Chulo was in a motor vehicle, and maybe it had tinted windows, and maybe they noticed something about the registration, and he was just sitting there doing nothing, and they came up and jumped in front of him and shot him because he had tinted windows and he was improperly, registered or whatever, or not registered, and so they just went up and shot him because of that.
Simply a motor vehicle stop.
It had nothing to do with that. The reason he was shot had nothing to do with any of those things. It had to do with the fact that he was endangering his life, he was endangering his passenger's life, and he was endangering everybody's life who was on the road in Wethersfield,
including
that
the
day.
Officer, wherever the officer was standing.
Right.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to come out of this and go into the next portion of the news.
This tragic event, and to put it in proper context, Attorney Jefferson, with all these hashtags that have developed across America of the unnecessary, unjustifiable, excessive force by police officers brutalizing people of color.
The history of this police officer should be weighed with and against the history of the vehicle and its operator. In other words, they're trying to paint now the police officer as a rogue, out of control, untrained, untrainable police officer. But what they're not doing is saying, let's put it on a scale. Yes, I will, for argument's sake, say, yeah, maybe the police officer shouldn't have run in front of the car. Maybe the police officer shouldn't have taken his firearm out. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. But wait a minute.
I don't even know how you can say that for argument's sake. There's no argument that supports that.
What I'm saying is, no one is taking responsibility for a 6-month history of flaunting the law, evading police,
Absolutely.
and just doing whatever you want to do.
And you know what? Somebody should be talking to Stephanie Santiago, because if Wethersfield settles with the family of Chulo, then Stephanie should go after the freaking family of Chulo at Chulo's estate and say, I was in severe emotional distress due to his reckless conduct that placed my life in danger. Give me some of that money.
I'm going to be afraid to get in a car with any guy after this.
Yeah, give me some money too. That's
Right.
what Stephanie should be saying.
So now comes the next one where they talk about, and I didn't realize, ocular. He uses the word ocular, which means vision. You see, he says there's evidence, there's ocular evidence, which is the videos. So go ahead, play the next portion of the
The history of this police officer, that he should have been on the streets. It was foreseeable that this tragedy or one like it would occur.
Foreseeable that a tragedy was going to occur, and the officer averted that tragedy. Thank you very much.
what he's trying to say is that the community, the town, society,
Ow.
the town, the
Ow.
police department, the chief, and everybody should have looked at the officer's background and said, this was a foreseeable incident. This was going to happen because of the officer's background.
You know what? If I were Wethersfield, I would be combing the databases for information about cars that have run from police and what happens to innocent bystanders and what happens to people in cars. They should be coming out hard in defense of this officer and how he saved lives.
The mainstream media was able to obtain the historical personnel records for this officer when he was on the Manchester, Connecticut Police Department. And they're criticizing his training and ability to learn and how he reacts as a police officer.
That's okay.
But no one is addressing the fact that there is photographic ocular evidence that marker plate 484YOS was picked up by the Vigilant License Plate Recognition System at the intersection of Washington Street and Park Street in the city of Hartford. That's a fixed plate reader on a pole. And it was also picked up on the Berlin Turnpike in Wethersfield, or New Wethersfield. It was picked up at the stationary camera at the intersection of Maple and Silas Dean, just north of this incident, right around the corner from his house. So, when you talk about the background of the officer, doesn't that open up that the society, the town, the police department, the patrolmen in Wethersfield, and patrolmen all over the country can say, let's look at the background of the owner of the car.
I think they're completely two separate issues, Ed. I don't see the connection there. I think first what needs to be determined is, was the officer's conduct justified? And if it was, it doesn't matter what
I agree.
It doesn't matter what his background is. Now, if they come out and say his conduct wasn't justified, yeah, then his background comes into it. How much did people know about his background? How much did that background contribute to what happened here? But if his conduct was justified, end of story. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Let me see if I can kind of come back to that, because I tend to agree with you, but it goes like this. This guy didn't fly all the way in from some other part of the country to have a 30-second news conference saying Chulo was wrong, and he shouldn't be dead. That's their argument. Chulo may have done something wrong, but he shouldn't be dead. That's their argument. But the key word that he used was foreseeable. If you can look at an officer's background and say this incident was foreseeable, then you have to look at Chulo's background as a family and say, you know something, this was foreseeable. Because I say this was foreseeable.
Yeah, but Wethersfield can't sue the family.
No,
Well, maybe.
Well, let me tell you,
Okay.
if I was that officer, I'd be filing a lawsuit against Chulo's estate for torturous interference with my employment.
Yeah, you did bring that up earlier this week, so I jumped into that one.
Torturous interference with my employment. Had you registered and insured your car, had a driver's license, and didn't have tinted windows and had the right plate on your car, I would still be just driving along, bored as shit, in a small town of Wethersfield, Connecticut.
I don't think people are aware that officers do sue suspects and people who are arrested. I mean, I had a case, especially if it's a juvenile, like a school resource officer. Let's give an example, and I've had a case pretty close to this. A school resource officer is a police officer. The kids in the school are 16 or under, 18 or under, but they're covered by their parents' homeowners insurance, right? And so let's just say the officers, there's a fire drill and the kids are supposed to get out, and the one kid's being sort of slow or defiant, and the officer's telling him he needs to exit, and the officer trips for some reason, breaks his ankle, blames it on the kid. The officer sues the parents and gets money from their homeowners insurance. They do that. Are people aware that police officers actually sue the people that they're arresting sometimes?
I'm going to give you two factual situations that are almost 50 years old.
I shouldn't say the officer. They get workers' comp, and then the workers' comp comes after the family. So it's a little more complicated than that.
I'm going to give you, and I can do this real quick, I'm going to give you two factual situations that I spoke to somebody who couldn't believe that I could remember this. Mr. Jones is going to go to Florida in November, and he's not coming back till April. So he calls up the police department and says, Police Department, I live at 123 Main Street, and I'm going to be going to Florida. Can you have somebody check my house to make sure it's okay? So they put you on what's called the vacant house list. And in your district, you have a vacant house list, and so you drive in the driveway, and you walk around the house, you get in the car, and you take off. No doors are open, no windows are broken, it looks okay, there's no fires, nothing. And Then you got Mrs. Smith, who goes away from May to September. And she calls up in the summertime and she goes, you know, I'm going to be going away. Same thing, houseless, and the cruiser pulls in. In one case, unbeknownst to everybody, the district car had an oil leak. And every time it pulled into the driveway, it parked in the same spot. The officer walked around the house, got in his car, and left. The homeowner comes home and sees this big oil spot that's eaten into his pavement and files a claim with the town saying, you got to repair my driveway. Your cruiser did damage to my driveway. And the town pays for it.
Well, that's an opposite thing, though.
Here we go.
Okay.
Wintertime, guy gets out of his cruiser, goes to walk around the house, slips on the driveway, on the ice on the driveway, falls down and breaks his wrist. He sues the homeowner for not having the driveway done.
Yep.
And the homeowner's insurance has to pay the officer.
Right.
And when I told that to somebody recently, they said, are you kidding? I said, I am not kidding. You know, you're going to have to go back and see if you can find the records from 48 years ago, but that was the laugh of the department, is that one guy's suing the town for an oil damage to his driveway, and the other guy is suing the homeowner for slipping in the driveway. Crazy. Okay, go ahead. Next.
Tragedy is documented on video.
This tragedy is documented on video. Not only that, but the car is documented in the Vigilant license plate recognition system over the past 6 months, 43 times being operated on the streets of Connecticut. Now, the LPR program does not show you who's in the car.
Right.
It just shows you the plate and the car that it's on. And the plate last was and could only be on a 2013 Hyundai, not an Mitsubishi, whatever, Infiniti. Go ahead, next.
The failures to follow proper police procedure is evident. There's ocular proof. You don't have to.
Okay, we're back on. So he's talking about.
Oh, was that it?
No. That was very short. Photographic evidence, ocular proof. Well, I've been able to find photographic evidence, i.e., the Vigilant photographs, and visual proof that policies and procedures that are supposed to be followed by the owner of a vehicle or operator of a vehicle weren't followed. So I have photographic and ocular evidence. So, over a 6-month period, Chulo and or his vehicle were flaunting the law and playing chicken with law enforcement. You know, you can't keep playing. Let's say you got the ocean, and the ocean in front of where you're going to swim is full of sharks. And you say, or no, you know something? I watch Swamp People on History Channel. And they got alligators in the same water that they have decks coming out from swamp houses. And they say, oh yeah, the kids go swimming in here. Well, let me tell you something. There is no way that I'm going to fucking swim in a canal that has alligators. There's no way I'm going to let my children swim in an area that has alligators.
Well, we all have different levels of risk aversion. Some people are unwilling to take any risk. Some people want to take a lot of risk. But when you take a lot of risk, you got to accept the fact that the consequences may be negative.
Should those families, those friends, those neighbors, and those members of a select community, if you want to go that far, if they are willing to accept incidents like this as the consequence of their actions, just keep doing it.
Well, but usually this is not like I say, for somebody to act the way Chulo acted, it's nuts. It's crazy. It's beyond the bounds of imagination that anybody would do that unless, number one, they were wanted for something very serious, or they're just downright crazy. Who does that? You can't imagine.
There is a story out there that at approximately 1 a.m. on April 2nd, 2019, 18 days before this incident, dark 30, that plate, 484 YOS, was observed and attempted to pull over in Wethersfield, and an officer got out of his cruiser, just like now, walked up to the car, and the car took off. By the time the officer got back to his cruiser, shut off the lights, turn in the driveway, go down a side road, he didn't know where the car, so there was no chase on the evening or morning of April 2nd.
Let me comment on that. We've talked on this show about police officers who testify in court and basically take the police officer version of the Fifth Amendment. I do not recall. We've talked about, in particular, a Naugatuck police officer whose report was inconsistent with the body cam video, and under oath on the stand, he said, well, I would be testifying this way, which, by the way, is not true, if it weren't for the video. In other words, the video made him honest. Otherwise, he'd be testifying in another way, right? And so one of our themes on this show has always been, why do judges allow officers to do this?
To demonstrate their mental incapacity to recall.
When an officer is caught in a misrepresentation, why does the court, why does the prosecutor, why do they look the other way and act like it doesn't matter? And it happens all the time. And it makes police officers bolder because they think they can get away with it. There's no reason for police officers to be more careful or look at the video to make sure the reports are correct if nobody's holding them accountable when they go to court, because they're human. And all humans, if they're not held accountable, they tend to stretch it as far as they can. The same thing applies to Chulo. You could argue the fact that other police officers maybe were unable or unwilling because of policies or because of fear of being sued to chase him down, to stop him, which only emboldened him. Every time he got away with this, he got bolder and bolder and bolder. And if he had gotten away with it in Wethersfield, he would have gotten even more bold, and he would have kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it until something happened. And that something could have been innocent people getting killed.
And I need to just explain this. A week ago last night, a week prior, on Friday night, there was a protest at the Wethersfield Police Department. I think it was on a Friday night. There was a protest in front of the Wethersfield Police Department.
This isn't the one at Town Hall?
No, this is the one where the goons were trying to keep me out of the building.
Yes.
Okay. At that event, I had the opportunity to interact with an individual member of the community who is very knowledgeable about similar situations, and he's a civilian. And I was totally open and honest about my feelings with him, and we had an intelligent discussion. And he opened up to me. He's the one who told me that he had learned from the family that Chulo had been pulled over approximately 2 weeks prior to this incident. I had no knowledge of the April 2nd 0048 or 1 o'clock in the morning motor vehicle stop until I was told a week ago. And I said, well, let me see if this person is giving me factual information, or is it a guess, or is it possible? So I started asking questions the way I go around and ask questions. and I was able to confirm that there is, in fact, a motor vehicle stop. There may, in fact, be dash cam video of that motor vehicle stop and the vehicle taking off on the morning of April 2nd, 2019 in Wethersfield, Connecticut. Now, all I can say is this. Now, think about it. Wethersfield is a small town. San Diego is a big town. Miami, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., Detroit, big town. But in a small town, when you get pulled over by a police officer and he's got that marker plate, he's not going to forget that marker plate that ran away from him. And Chulo, did you think about changing the plate? Did you think about registering the car so that bad plate's not on the car anymore? Or did you just say, fuck it, I'm just going to keep driving?
Well, I don't know if that's become part of the narrative yet, where either one of the officers involved or any officer involved in this recognized the plate. For
No.
past incidences.
Wasn't one of these officers.
Then we
But what I'm saying is, Chulo should have known that if you got pulled over once with that plate, that other officers in the department may talk and understand that there's a plate out there, 484YOS, that doesn't belong on the car.
But I'm going to go back to what I said about the officer. If it's justified, if it was a justified shooting, it doesn't matter what his past was. You have to look at just this incident. Now, I'm going to say the same thing for Chulo. If the shooting was unjustified, then it doesn't matter what Chulo's past was.
Right.
Because only this incident matters.
Right.
And so I tend to not count with either one of them what happened before and just look at this incident.
You know, let's look at the history of high-speed police pursuits.
Well, let me add, and this is why in criminal court, a lot of evidence is not admissible that people think should be.
Right.
You know, if somebody is on trial for sexual assault and they've been convicted of it before, the jury's not, except under limited exceptions, the jury's not allowed to hear that, because the belief is that maybe in this case the evidence on the sexual assault's a little weak. So if the jury hears that the guy was convicted of it before, that's going to put him over the edge. And
It's going to prejudice him.
And they're going to find beyond a reasonable doubt he did it before, he did it this time. And even if he didn't do it this time, he did it before. So who the hell cares whether he did it or not this time? And so that's why the evidence isn't admissible. And I think the same applies here. I think we just need to focus on this incident.
Let me, like I said, let's go back in your memories of, and we've all heard in the past, the headlines, the news, on TV at night in Los Angeles, in Nevada, in Las Vegas, in Los Angeles, San Diego, the helicopter, the high-speed pursuits. A lot of times, there is protocol of when you break off, when you believe that the vehicle you're chasing is creating such a risk to the public, you back off and stop the chase because you don't want to increase or make it worse than it is. You follow me? So, in this case, the officer probably knows, well, it doesn't do any good to walk up to the car from behind because he's going to take off. The car is stopped. He stands in front of it saying, who's going to run at a police officer? They didn't. I'm sure that officer didn't expect him to step on the gas. But you're right about one thing. This is where this is going to come down in the eyes of the state's attorney, in the eyes of the state police investigators, in the eyes of the police department and everybody else, except the family and those people that just won't listen. What was going through the officer's mind when he took his finger from safe outside the trigger guard and put it inside the trigger guard to pull the trigger? Did that occur before he ran up in front of the car, or did it only happen when the vehicle lurched forward? Because he probably didn't expect to get run over by a car. And I think it was last week I talked about the officer who stood in front of a car, okay, in Maryland, female officer, and the car ran her over and killed her. So yeah, I guess you should say to police officers, don't stand in front of a car like that because they may run you over. That officer had his finger in a safe position so as not to accidentally discharge his firearm when he was yelling commands to the operator and expected him to show me your hands, get out of the vehicle, and go through a routine traffic stop.
Okay, so we're talking a lot about what happened. If the video is ready to show the actual incident, this would probably be a good time.
Yeah, I don't, we're because we got other things to talk about. But,
right.
But I really believe that I was incensed at what was said at the news conference, but I understand what this attorney is attempting to do.
Well, and you know what he said was somewhat boilerplate. He wasn't very fiery or passionate about it from what I observed. Did you observe that?
No, he was very methodical.
Right.
He was going down through the numbers.
Right.
But there is a section, and I'm going to find it, and I haven't done it yet, where Chulo's older brother, when the lawyer is telling what happened, and the officer, the brother puts a smile on his face and goes like this. There is criticism of Wethersfield Police Chief James Citran because within the first 60 minutes following this incident, a member of the media asked Chief Citran, Chief, is this a justifiable shooting? And Jimmy Citran laughed and answered the question. He wasn't laughing at the situation. He was laughing at the stupid reporter who could even expect a chief of police to render an opinion on good shoot, bad shoot, 60 minutes.
Well, let me just throw in there. I didn't know about that, but if you recall, when we went to the demonstration or the protest at the Wethersfield Town Hall last week, I said, why are these people laughing? Why are they chanting like it's some kind of fun thing they're out doing? And that struck me as odd, the way people that are so fired up about this and protesting about this were laughing. Well, that's interesting. I like that. We got a background there. Maybe we should go to the side here, Ed, and we can watch. Let's try this.
Go ahead.
There we go. I don't know.
Get us out so everybody can see all of the video. Watch for the backup lights on the outside of the car. You'll see them come on and go off when he goes back through reverse.
So this is the actual stop.
Right. When the vehicle, the officer's going to approach on. There they go. Did you see him?
Yep.
He's gone. And now
look at that high rate of speed, Ed. Look at
right.
that. Look at that. They're going to be able to tell. Look at cutting off that car up there.
Now you can see the cruiser.
Boy, this guy, I'd be pulling over if I were him. Look at these cars coming down here. This is a crowded street. This is not the middle of the night.
Stops. Stephanie it takes off. If he's seriously wounded, what the hell is he stepping on the gas for?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that he was seriously wounded.
Oh,
what
no,
are you talking about?
He ended up dead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't really get the relevance of any of that.
What I'm saying is, here he is shot in the head twice, according to reports, and he steps on the gas.
Yeah, but when you're shot in the head, Ed, I mean, you don't know what you're doing. I mean,
I don't think he knew
depends
what he
what
was.
part of the
I don't
brain.
think he knew what he was doing from the get go.
Yeah, no, I think you're taking it a little far there. Stephanie, you should be thanking God that you're alive. That's what you should be doing right there.
Now this is the guy that's getting his pizza. Now we're going to have some audio of the siren.
Buses. Well, we don't need to hear a siren, do we?
All of these cars going north, they're heading north, are going through that plate reader. Crosses to the other side of the road to block the road. Cars coming up. There's a car right there. There's the 180. That's enough.
Okay.
That's enough.
Oh, look. Bassie's been outside a long time. She's all hot.
Popped and zoomed in, but we don't need to see this, Dan.
Come here, baby. Come here.
Okay, we're back.
Okay.
There it is.
So we've talked about it. We've shown it. What else you got for the last half hour of the show, Ed? And we will keep following this story. Don't worry about that.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an hour and 31 minutes.
We do.
And there's about 36 minutes of news conference that I'd like to put with this, and we can cut some of this off.
You don't want to talk about your other subjects?
Well, we can.
Come on. Come on, you can do it.
All right, let's talk about juvenile car theft.
Okay.
All right. I probably should have printed out the whole article, but it goes like this.
I'm going to look at the law. This sounds nuts to me.
Okay.
I don't get it. Now, I'm hoping that this doesn't include carjacking.
No.
That'll be next.
Do me a favor.
That'll be next.
Do me a favor. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you what to Google, because it'll come up, because
I was going to look at the
these are the
actual law,
actual
but okay.
bold-headed headlines on the article.
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Okay. Go to my Facebook page, because it's there.
I don't know. I don't know how to get
Juvenile
to your Facebook
car theft
page.
bill. Juvenile car theft bill.
Okay.
Is it channel 30?
I don't know. It's something. Juvenile car theft bill headed to House. Go ahead, talk about it. Come on.
So the Senate, the Connecticut Senate,
Yeah.
has passed a juvenile car theft bill. Why don't you read from the article and give credit to whose page we're on?
Well, I just came to the first thing. Lisa Backus. We know her. She's covered some stuff
And she's
we've
with
done.
what newspaper?
Connecticut News
Connecticut
Junkie.
News Junkie.
A very liberal outlet. Wouldn't
Okay,
you say?
yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I would characterize
Yep.
them as that.
So read the description of what they're trying to do.
With little debate and lengthy accolades for the authors of the proposed legislation, the Senate passed an amended bill late Thursday afternoon that would allow juveniles charged with car theft to seek services rather than face adult prosecution. This is in response to a very serious issue in the state with juveniles, Senator Winfield of New Haven told his colleague. It diverts children charged with theft or misuse of a vehicle to treatment, which, if successfully completed, could lead to suspension of prosecution in a criminal case. Let me comment on that. So
Diversion program.
So they get referred to treatment. Now, is stealing a car now a disease? What does that mean? Treatment for stealing a car. What would that treatment be?
Read on.
Okay, let me see. Police say the uptick is traced to juveniles who have no fear of juvenile proceedings.
Stop right there.
I was just talking about that.
No fear of juvenile proceedings.
As well, they shouldn't. Juvenile justice advocates oppose sending more kids into the adult court system and possibly adult prisons. Number one, in Connecticut, if you steal a car, you're not going to jail. I mean, I don't know how many times you'd have to do it to go to jail. I mean, you just don't go to jail for stealing a car in Connecticut. I don't know about other places, but several of the car theft cases have ended in tragedy, including the recent death of a 17-year-old from Hartford who was thrown from a stolen car when it crashed minutes after being chased by Madison police. There you go.
In Durham.
There you go.
Somebody from Hartford was down along the shore in a town called Madison along Long Island Sound, stole a car, ended up in a chase, and I believe that in Durham, Connecticut, that car that was being chased went out of control and the kid got ejected and killed. Rolled over and killed. Now, he didn't get shot, but he's dead. And you want to minimize what they're doing.
I know.
You wanna let's talk about it, what they're doing. What does the owner of the car think?
I know. I was just saying, if especially if you're a person without much money, you just carry the mandatory insurance on your car, and if somebody steals your car, you're just shit out of luck. So who does it really affect? It affects poor people who are obeying the law and trying to do their best, maintaining minimum insurance on their car. That's who it impacts.
I don't have any mortgages to speak of on several pieces of real estate.
Well, good for you.
And I don't have to carry liability insurance or fire insurance on my homes.
That's true, I guess.
But
yeah.
I choose to carry that insurance. And I just got done yesterday looking at, do I need flood insurance on 2 properties in Florida? And I went like this. Okay, they want $700 a year premium for each house. And then there's a $1,250 deductible before you get your first dime. So what you do is you add the premium, 7, plus the $1,250, that's $1,950 that I would have to spend every year, that if something happened, I have to be out that money before I collect 1 dime. So the real cost of insurance is the premium every year plus the deductible.
Well, I mean, health insurance, I don't want to get into a whole
There are
different
people who choose not to carry collision and theft and glass breakage on their cars, saying, well, I have $1,000 deductible and the car is only worth $2,000. It's going to cost me $700 to insure it, so I won't take that. But then all of a sudden the car gets stolen, totally demolished, and I'm out of car. And the person who stole it may end up getting counseling.
Exactly. Oh, so the results of the data gathered by Ken Barone, project manager at the Institute for Municipal and Regional Policy at Central Connecticut State University, showed car thefts decreased in cities including Bridgeport, Hartford, New Britain, and New Haven by more than 38% from 2008 to 2017. But during the same period, car thefts rose close to 21% in the state's suburbs, with populations up to 25,000.
Can I say something?
Yes.
This incident took place in Wethersfield, not in Hartford, that we were talking about previously. And what they're sitting there going is, wow, you know, these people that live out in the suburbs, they have nicer cars, and they're trusting people, and they think they're living in a safe neighborhood, and we can get out there and we can kind of pick any car we want and just take off with it. They're breaking into cars. I went through Farmington, Connecticut a year and a half ago, and I saw all of this police activity and didn't know what it was. And like 30 automobiles had been ransacked in the middle of the night. People stealing cameras, stealing laptops, stealing coins, whatever, stealing shit out of the cars. And guess what? It wasn't somebody from Farmington that was doing it.
At the end of the period, so there's this, like you say, this 6-month period, probation officer would report to the court. But get this. This is such BS. Listen. The parents or guardians of the juvenile will be required to pay for the cost of treatment and other services if the juvenile is accepted into the program. Please, that is just not happening. That's just not happening.
Now, hold on a minute.
Have a caller?
Hold on a minute. If
We don't have a caller, but we have a request from our audience. They would just like a brief commercial interruption to make sure that you're okay. There's a lot of chatter on the
about if I'm okay.
people concerned about your health. So you haven't given a health update yet today.
Oh, I thought what he was referring to was the fact that.
Right.
Wait,
Here-
I want to finish my sentence. I thought what he was referring to was the fact that I made you keep going at 1:30 when you kind of hinted you didn't want to go anymore. So I feel guilty now.
Listen, okay, I'm going to tell.
But we don't
I'm going to tell everybody what's going on.
I'm making them go
I'm
the
going to
whole
tell
2
everybody
hours.
what's going on. I am now required to carry a man purse over my shoulder, and it has this little line that comes out of it, and I have what's called a PIC, IV in my arm. It is a drug that is administered to increase the efficiency of my heart, because I found out this past week that I have in fact been put onto the heart transplant list to get a new heart, or a LVAD, left ventricular assist device, which is a bridge between heart failure and a new heart. And I will be going in the next week, 15th and 17th, and I have to sign certain documents with the surgeon that's going to take the heart out of my chest and put a new one in.
So the good news on that, though, is that to qualify to be on the heart transplant list, you really have to be healthy everywhere else, right?
Yes.
Because they do
Yes.
all the testing.
They did more testing on me than I've ever had done in my life. But yes, I have congestive heart failure. My heart had gotten to a point where they had to put me on a medication to increase the output efficiency of my heart. And should my heart begin to fail on this drug, I guess that I will go in, they'll crack my chest and hook me up to a artificial pump. But I got to tell you, I feel absolutely great. The drug is doing what it's supposed to do. I feel good. I just don't like having this leash on me all the time.
Tons of, no, you've had a lot of energy.
I have to change the medicine bag every other day. They have to change the dressing on my arm once a week. And it's really a pain in the ass to be hooked to this little hose.
Okay, so did we discuss the juvenile theft thing? And no.
Well, what I want to say is this, is that we live in a time, 2019, where society has evolved, where we're not going to be holding kids accountable for what they do.
Yeah, what they're basically saying, they're giving up.
Let me just add one more thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to they're trying to increase the age, raise the age. Juvenile used to be under 16. Now they want to make juvenile under 18. Then they're going to try and make juvenile under 21. And the age of majority is 18 years old. I don't know how you can require the parent of an 18-year-old to pay for something their 18-year-old child did. Now, if the 18-year-old's driving my car and does it, then I guess I'm responsible because I own the car. If I participate in it, I may be responsible. But how do they say the parent is responsible for paying the treatment? What are you going to do when you got an 18-year-old and the parents go, I ain't paying?
Well, what are you going to do when you have parents who are indigent and on public assistance and represented by the public defender?
Public assistance will pay for it.
No, the fees are going to be completely waived because that happens every day in court. We have fees and they're waived for various reasons. So they try to make it sound like the program's going to pay for itself, but no, you and me are going to pay for the program. Okay, that's how it works. Now, you know that you are in a state with no hope, a state ruled by Democrats, a state without a Republican Party, when legislation like this is actually crafted by the Senate Minority Leader, Len Fasano, who was a Republican. In what state would legislation like this be crafted by a Republican? We don't have a Republican Party in Connecticut. It's insulting for Republicans in this state to even call themselves Republicans, except for a couple very, very noteworthy exceptions. And everybody knows who I'm talking about there, but I'm not talking about Len Fasano.
Well, you're right. And I just have to tell you that...
That's something Ted Kennedy would have proposed, right? That's something Hillary would propose. It's something Obama would propose, right? That's not a Republican bill.
Do you get the impression...
Republicans are supposed to be individual responsibility.
Well, let's say something for the record, because maybe it's a time to reassert our positions. My entire adult life...
Duke?
He's doing something.
Duke?
Is he eating something?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm 70 years old. I'm the old fart on the show. But at one time, I used to do this when I was younger. And my entire adult life was spent as a die-in-the-woods liberal Democrat who felt like a Democrat and acted like a Democrat. I talked like a Democrat.
Now, you kind of say that for a fact, but I don't know. I think you had a lot of conservative Republican tendencies.
Well, okay, I was a member of the Democratic Party.
You were never Hillary Clinton.
No.
Okay.
No. What I'm trying to say to you is this. So here I am, this lifelong liberal Democrat, voted for Obama twice.
Twice?
Twice.
The second time?
Second time.
Oh.
And
I voted
then
the
all of a
first time.
sudden, I started to become the victim of Connecticut Democratic Governor Daniel Malloy. And I started to see what Democratic President Barack Obama was doing. And I started to see what Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton had done, was doing, and what planned to do. I started to listen to Bernie Sanders about what he wanted to do. I start listening to AOC about what she wants to do. And I got to tell you, I started feeling more and more and more pressure to leave that party that they didn't want me or my opinions or my beliefs or the way I felt anywhere around them.
No, they don't.
I think that somebody said that Hillary lost because she didn't go out and talk to the common people in the suburbs or in the rural America because she felt she didn't have to, I'm just going to win it. And that's what I get from the entire Democratic Party. Hundreds of thousands of people are illegally crossing our southern border, and the Democrats are happy.
I read in the past couple weeks an opinion that the Democratic Party is actually going to have to start recognizing that white males exist, or they might not get the vote. I mean, they really have to change their position and not just act like white men are dinosaurs that need to be discounted, because that's what they do.
All I can say, Rachel, is this, is that I would love to be able to go back to a time in my life when I had faith in the government, I had faith in law enforcement, You know, there was a time in my life that I had faith that the judicial system was okay.
Well, you know what? Things haven't changed, and people have always been people, and you should have probably never had that faith. But a society,
Life has opened my eyes.
But society has to instill in its children conformity and discipline for society to continue. And how do you instill conformity and discipline? By teaching them that authority means something, and you follow its direction. It should be respected. And then it's a real letdown when you get older.
Okay, we got, 12 minutes, maybe 7 minutes left. So let's talk about,
What
because
else is on your topics? You don't care
the
about
topic.
your
I'm going to
topics?
go to one of them.
Okay.
There is a group of protesters who go from New Haven to Hartford to Bridgeport to Hamden, and if you look at the videos of the people in the crowd, you begin to see similar faces. I have a video of two individuals, really more, but primarily two individuals who were chest butting me, holding the door closed so I couldn't get into the Wethersfield Police Department lobby.
You were
chest
amazing.
bumping me,
Yeah,
chest
you
bumping
were,
me.
They made fun of your Marine Corps ring.
They did.
Yeah.
They actually said, "What does his son look like?"
Yeah.
Like they're threatening my child.
Right.
Well, here's what I want to do. I want to whisper in their ear. I want to say, "Let me ask you a question. What if I start yelling 'gun, gun, gun' in this crowd?"
Why would you do that?
Well, why not?
Well, because you shouldn't. It
No,
panics the crowd.
No.
I think
would,
I think
you're right.
it violates
listen,
a law.
Listen, it would probably panic
Inciting
the crowd.
public
It would probably
riot.
panic the crowd.
Yeah, so you can't
but
do
if
that.
I'm saying it in defense of myself, I'll say whatever I have to say. Now,
I don't know.
just hear me out.
Because fire,
On video-
fire. You're not supposed
no,
to yell that.
No, listen. On video, not shot by us, it was done in Hamden, and there's a link.
You could yell elder abuse.
If you Google
elder abuse.
If you Google the activists shut down Hamden Police Commission.
You know, let me just interject here. It's the year 2019.
Right.
And there really should be etiquette when it comes to people telling other people what to Google. Don't you think?
Okay, how should I say it?
Well, I don't know. Telling other people to Google things.
Okay, I have a topic that I ripped from the headline, and it says, "Activists shut down Hamden Police Commission meeting,
Okay.
demanding immediate firing." I didn't take the article. I didn't take a link that I would have to read. So if you Google that, you'll go right to the story.
I feel like a Google assistant.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
What?
It's like we're advertising for Google. There's Bing, there's Yahoo, there's other search engines.
Dogpile. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but what I'm saying is this. When you have activists who can go into a public meeting and literally grab the table mic from in front of someone who's a member of the police commission and start arguing into the microphone, that's disorderly conduct. That's breach of peace.
Well, activists interrupted a Hamden Police Commission meeting Wednesday demanding an officer be fired and calling for justice after two people in a car were shot at by police last month. So let me get this straight. They're calling for justice, but they want to deny the officer due process.
Right. Is there a photograph in that article?
There's a video. There's a bunches of video. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go.
Well, what I'm saying is there is video, ocular evidence of an individual grabbing the mic. They were at a table. You know, a lot of your public meetings, they're just like tables.
Mm-hmm.
Grabbing the microphone, and you can see that they make a motion to adjourn, second vote, and the meeting was canceled. Why didn't law enforcement grab this person, hook them up, and take them away? I've been at meetings
You know why?
where if I talk more than 5 minutes, they threaten to throw me out of the meeting. What if I walk up and grab the microphones?
Because they're afraid.
The members of the commission are afraid.
Yeah, they're afraid.
Because they're afraid of striking the match when there's gasoline in the room.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, if you watch these videos, and I've started to freeze frame, zoom in, enlarge, and get pictures of the goons, okay? There's a guy that runs around He's tall, got kind of blondish short hair, and he's wearing a green coat. He wears the same coat. And he's the one that was chest bumping me. Well, he was down in Bridgeport at this incident the other night. He was at Hamden. He's up in Hartford. And these people are attempting to incite a confrontation with law enforcement and public officials.
Yep.
You know, I was raised to believe that you don't do that. You don't have a sit down on the floor of the house. You can't walk into the governor's office and just sit down and protest. You know, there's a way that you're supposed to do it. Well, this is getting out of hand. And I'm going to tell you, somebody starts to threaten me and chest bump me. I'm 70 years old. And I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, you know, you really don't want to mess with the 70-year-old man or in today's society, the 40-year-old guy who either spent a month in Fallujah or a year in the jungles of South Vietnam taking care of himself. You really don't want to have that 19-year-old kid that's in the 70-year-old's head respond to what you're doing.
Well, describe what was going on. I mean, it was even more offensive. What these people did was they went in the Wethersfield Police Department lobby and basically occupied it and wouldn't let you in to cover the store. And it's a public building. You had every right to go in there, but they were holding the door shut. You were up at the door attempting to go in, and these people who you describe as goons, I don't usually like to call people names, but
they're goons.
It fits in this instance.
They're goons.
You know, we're blocking the door, saying you were not going to go in and all that.
And the ironic part is, the guy, when he was chest bumping me, has the blue bandana on over his nose to hide his face. But I've got video of him uncovered with his face, and I'm going to make a wanted poster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to put it up on the internet and say, I don't know his name, but, you know, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
All I'm trying to say is society is starting to crumble a little bit.
Okay. Anything short?
No, I'm sure that there's going to be more topics next week.
Okay, well, everybody have a great week. We're going to continue to follow the story, and I'm going to continue practicing editing all the great work that Ed is doing, post-production. Okay? Good show, Ed.
Good show.
Thank you.